Hey Devon, how are you?
I'm doing good, and you?
Doing well. Hi Calix.
Hi, Sierra.
One more second. How's everyone doing?
I'm doing good. I'm doing real.
Really well, thanks.
Okay, that's good. Everyone's here. Welcome to our Therapy Thursday for tonight, where we are focused on people of color and Black students. And we have our wonderful therapist again tonight, Felix here. And before we get started, we're just going to do a bit of introductions. To start it off, I'm Sierra Luter. I will be hosting tonight. I'm an intern with the project, the Urban Health Media Project. I've been with the project for about 4 years now. Very much into film and journalism. I've spoken on Capitol Hill, done some works in USA Today. More specifically about what we will be talking about, I definitely have had a lot of my work be centered around the Black community. So it's definitely something I'm very passionate about, being a Black student, being very much into mental health. So I'm really excited for tonight. So we can start off with Devon, if you just want to say a couple words.
Hey, hello everyone. My name is Davon Harris. I have been a part of UHMP. Started as a student probably since 2018. Now I'm a intern. I attend Virginia University. As you can see, you got to represent. You can't come allowed to represent your school. Um, I study mass communications. I would focus on broadcast journalism. I have, like Sierra said, I've spoken on Capitol Hill as well. I have worked on USA Today, Washington Informer, classic cars. I'm just everywhere. I'm a photographer, videographer. Um, I'm I'm an advocate for mental health. I just do everything. So I'm gonna let everyone speak now.
Hi everybody, my name is Young Elder. I'm 19. I go to Coppin State University. I don't got my merch on, but I'm representing y'all know. I'm currently a sophomore. I'm a part of Healing Youth Alliance, which is an organization full of youth from Baltimore who give presentations on mental health in the Black community in Baltimore, trying to spread that education to my peers and everybody. And I'm also a part of the mayor's trauma informed care task force. So we're coming up with strategies on how to really combat trauma in Baltimore City. So I'm really excited about that. And if y'all like to eat, y'all can come to me too, because I have a cooking business called Quarantine Delights with my sister. And if y'all want to check it out, I'm going to drop it in the Instagram. And yeah, that's me. And I'm a youth advocate here to help the youth really get control of their mental health and see a brighter future for themselves as well.
It's great.
Great. Hi, everyone. My name is Calix, and I am a therapist with Amwell. I've been with them for about 4 years, so I've been doing telehealth for a while now, but I've been doing urban mental health for 15 years. I've worked in the foster care system with youth on probation, human trafficking, but in general, I basically just like to work in community mental health. And so one of the things that I've spent a lot of time doing in those fields is doing trauma informed care. And so, that's one of the things that I feel like doesn't get talked about enough is the trauma that communities of color experience. And so I'm hoping that today gives you a little bit of exposure to some of the stuff that I do. And that's about it on me.
Thank you guys so much for your introduction. So we're going to hop right into it because we only have 30 minutes. But as we think about this year specifically and how it's affected students and students of color and Black students, oftentimes we have to bear the weight of a regular person's life and then also political events going on, whether it be the protests that happened last summer or police brutality, which has happened for a long time, but it has definitely become more prevalent with social media and smartphones. And so I guess the first question I do have for Calix, and I would love to hear Davon and Elder thoughts on this as well, is what are your thoughts on how students best manage their time between a traumatic subject and school, or between that and something else? Because I know oftentimes it may seem like, I know at least for me being a Black person, I feel like I have to be at totally 100% immersed in everything that's going on, as no matter how traumatic it might be, even though I may have an exam or an assignment, or maybe my mom is sick. So just asking, what are your thoughts on how to best manage those things, while still making sure your mental health is sound?
I think that everyone has a different bandwidth for how much information they can take in, how much trauma we can take in as well. Because particularly in the past year, it's not like any of the things that we've been seeing in the news are new. I think we're just talking about them at a much faster clip. And COVID intensified everything. The pandemic intensified our experiences of our realities. And so I would say for each person, you have to really assess, based on what's going on in your school life, in your personal life, and the different sectors of where you need to show up. If being exposed to social media, news, or other, anything else, like even community events, is affecting your mental health in a way that makes you not able to function in these other areas, I think you want to pay attention to that. And it's okay to put limits on things. It's okay to say, you know what, I'm going to take a break from this for a week. And then communicating about that. I think that that's what makes our communities healthier too, is when we say, hey, this is too much. And I see that a lot on social media, especially from like Black leaders too, on social media, being like, you know what, take care of yourself. Make sure you're having a good weekend that's free of all of this stuff that we keep ingesting.
No, that's true. And I think that's good advice, because oftentimes at least like I just said, you kind of feel, maybe you might feel obligated, like you have to view those things. And I definitely think, that your mental health is number one, is the most important thing, because you can't even address the subject fully if you're not even mentally sound. You can't be a proper advocate or a proper person to advocate for, change within whatever the situation is, if you're not mentally sound. And that's true. And maybe Davon or Elder, you guys could share maybe your experiences with managing that. Have you had difficulty? Do you feel guilty, or have you kind of taken the approach of, oh no, it's fine, I'm okay, with not thinking or not focusing, or turning off Twitter as soon as you scroll? It's like you see a meme that's funny, and then you scroll down, and then it's something traumatic, and then you see something else funny, which I do also want to touch on that, because that might also be affecting mental health. But definitely, what you guys say.
Yeah, I'll add on it. First, I do want to speak about balance. Balance is very important, because if you don't know how to balance yourself, then you would, some stuff that you, like some problems you may have personally, may trigger off into your youth advocacy work. So you have to work on your balance, because I do ministry. So if I'm like, if I'm preaching to the youth and I'm going to stuff personally, and I let that spill over to where I'm giving the word to people, then it's going to be, you can see, that I'm not able to balance my personal stuff and my actual leadership work. So balance is very important when it comes to me personally. I'm gonna speak on that. I do youth advocacy work. I remember when we had the March for Our Lives campaign, and that's when what happened at the school down south, and I took upon myself as the president of my high school. So everybody, let's go, let's walk out. We all walked to the Capitol, and if I allowed that situation to really affect me, I wouldn't have been a leader enough to lead my people all the way to the Capitol and have, what I'm saying? But if I was like, you know what, we having a march, a huge million man march over this, when black people are getting shot every day, what I'm saying? Schools are getting shot up. So if I allowed that to spill over, then my students would never had the experience of real change and make a change and marching. And if I allowed my personal feelings affect exactly what's going on, then I would have never be able to be a leader that I needed to be at that time. So that's why it's important for you to have that balance of understanding how do you deal with your personal feelings about something, and also go do what you have to do as a leader or as a student in general. Definitely being a black person, there's a lot of issues that, get highlighted when another race or someone else does something. But when we do something, it's like, so it's very hard to, balance both. So I just want to speak on that balance part. That's what I actually encountered not too long ago, 2018. That's when it happened, or 2017, I believe. Yeah, I was like, I was a little bothered, but I didn't allow that to really affect the students getting a real experience and making change. Because still, at the end of the day, even though it wasn't people like us that was going through that same thing, we were still fighting for something that we do experience to this day. You know what I'm saying? So it was those students like, Dave, I'm so happy that you brought me here, because I never experienced a march before my life. I never experienced protests. I never knew how to do it peacefully too, because we was just chanting. We wasn't rioting. We wasn't breaking stuff. We was there making a change, because that could happen to any school. It could happen to any person. So it was like, you know what? Let's come together and let's do this. So.
No, thank you. I think you're totally right. I mean, especially with the balance. I know
Mm-hmm.
me, I on this new thing of being gang, I'm always about balance between like two different spectrums because I feel like I float. But definitely for me personally, what you said, which is also seeing the bigger picture and realizing
Yeah.
that yes, this event is happening, and yes, it's important, but also seeing the bigger picture. Maybe if I don't engage with it, will maybe the war won't end for this one situation, and kind of realizing that you can still care and still show your concern without being 100 and 1,000% into it, because there are other people who are 100 and 1,000% into it. And
Yeah.
I definitely think that balance, realize that you know although we do live in a traumatic, a time where a lot of traumatic things happening, especially being students of color, realizing that above it all, we are also human, and that balance, of course, of realizing, doling out your attention. And I guess I'm trying to tiptoe over my words so much because it's
Yeah.
such a thing, because I feel guilty too, because I'll be like, yeah, I know it's about balance and I know I have this work to do, but gosh, I feel like a bad Black person because I'm just not. I
Yep. Yep.
I got to be out on the front lines, and I definitely think last summer or last semester I definitely struggled with balancing that between my schoolwork. But you're right, I definitely think in the bigger picture
Mm-hmm.
is really important. Realizing that this is a bad moment, but overall for me, what can I do on a large scale? And I think that's how I approached it.
Yeah.
And then I'm talk elder. I don't want to take up all the time, but I know last when everything was happening between COVID and the riots and police brutality, I kind of was wondering, where do I fit, and where
That's
do I
good.
place. And so realizing, okay, well, maybe I can't go outside and be on the front lines, especially because we live in DC. So my mom was like, I'm not really
Yeah.
sure, but
Yeah.
sat me
Mm-hmm.
down. Well, what are some ways that you can help the bigger picture? I love writing. I love words. I started advocating. I started writing poetry. I got people together. We were having conversations. So maybe also that's another thing, realizing the bigger picture of how can I really help in the best way while still being my fullest self. Um,
Exactly.
yeah. So, Elder,
Yeah,
if you also.
I think it's great that you actually mentioned that. Like, I think the best way to really connect with people sometimes is just to have that conversation, because, you don't have to go outside to have a conversation. You can come to platforms like this and you can have a conversation, and just being empathetic to people, being empathetic to people's feelings, because I definitely understand how it feels like not being able to balance. I mean, balance, yes, is important, but we have to be realistic. It's not easy,
Yeah.
especially when you're in college or you're working, or, you're just trying to balance real life,
Mm-hmm.
let alone balance your mental health as well. So I guess like some tips would just be, make a schedule, or just find something that you're really passionate about, whether it's music, like she said, or writing, whatever it is, just find something that you're passionate about. That way it'll help you get through that. And then through that, you'll be able to find your balance, and it won't be so cloudy, because for me it can be hard, and I experience guilt too sometimes. Like people will be like, oh, Elder, you're so great, like you inspire me. And then on the other hand, I don't know, people in my city still dying. So it's like I still feel bad. Like sometimes I feel like I'm not doing enough. So just being able to find that clarity, because it can be a lot for one person to take on, especially like being a leader in a role and people looking up to you, just being able to clear your head.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would just like to highlight, though, that all three of you, what you're saying too, is like, I'm a whole person. I'm a whole person and there are parts of me that sometimes are tired to the point where I need to not be at that protest. I need to be in the house and like taking care of myself. Or maybe you do need to be at that protest, right? Or however you see fit for you. I think it's important for you to be able to see your own like wholeness as important, and therefore honor that and take care of that. And I know that like elder, what you said, young elder, like it's so much easier for me to say that and really hard to do, because our communities and our families demand things of us.
No, that's 1,000% true. And I definitely think, as we just continue to move through life, definitely finding that balance, and mainly finding your voice. And I think that's right. Because if you find your voice, then that's the best way that you can attack it, and the best way that you can approach while still being mentally sound. And so I think that's right. Also, I agree with what you said, Calix. Remembering that we are still full people and still whole people, and we play many different roles in life. and realizing that, we still have other roles to dole our attention out to, which, yeah, which also leads me to my next point, or, our next topic, as we talk about health within the Black community and within, people of color in this community, navigating that conversation of mental health, because it's like our communities deal with some of the most traumatic events, yet the mental health aspect within, families or within each other, within the community, mental health and therapy is not as present. I've done research and talked about the code of silence in the Black community as it relates to sexual assault and mental health, and how these things happen, and many traumatic things have happened, and we're not talking about it. And so, Calix, the first question is, what are your thoughts on navigating that conversation for a young person trying to get therapy, or just trying to speak about mental health in a room full of people, in a room full of critics? That's my first question on navigating that. But then also, Davon and Elder, if you could share your experiences on mental health and how it has improved or how it has helped, or if any work you have done with your mental health, how does that change how you might approach a traumatic situation, being these youth advocates, because you guys are in the forefront of a lot of these traumatic situations happening. So definitely sharing your experiences as well after Calix.
Yeah, can you clarify just a little bit when you say navigating, like being able to get from I want help to getting the mental health service? Is that your question?
Yeah, my question is basically for younger people living in homes, how do you suggest that they start that conversation, or they start that dialogue for getting help, or for saying, hey, I need mental help, or hey, I need to go to a therapist, without people saying, oh, you might be crazy, or you might be that? How do you best suggest that they approach that conversation so that they start to get that, or maybe convince other people around them to get that?
Mm-hmm. It takes a lot of courage to be, particularly when you're coming from certain communities, it takes a lot of courage to be able to say, you know what, something is going on with me. I'm feeling a certain kind of way, and I need some support around this, right? Particularly if you experience sexual assault, domestic violence, different things, right? And so I think the first thing is to try to find an ally, meaning that for some of us, in our homes, our parents can be our allies, and for some of us, that's just not true. And so maybe, like, if you were to bring it up to somebody in your family, you kind of have to sit back and assess, is this the person who is going to be able to be there for me and help me take another courageous step and get to where I want to go, which is to get some help? Because if they're not, then I always think it's best to try to find a friend, a mentor in a community program. There's many different avenues, but being able to share with someone else, hey, I'm thinking about this, what do you think? And then taking that next step. Because usually what we find in communities of color is that it's not just like, oh, I want to get some mental health services, and then they're calling somebody the next day. It's usually a process of months. Sometimes I don't meet people till I've been thinking about this for 2 years, Calix, and then I'm finally meeting them, right? And all of these things have happened that brought them to that place where they're in a brave space to be able to confront some things or work on some things. And so that's why I think that it's okay to take a step back and then figure out for yourself who can support me in this new venture that I'm doing.
I think I would really just say, try to get in your head exactly what it is that you think may be the issue. Because a lot of times, if you have an idea and you find somebody that you trust and you can talk to, it'll be easier to kind of get that stigma away, because you will be surprised how many people can actually relate to whatever situation you're going through. And because at the end of the day, everybody has mental health. So everybody's going to experience something different. So you never know. So if you find somebody that you can trust, like a really caring friend or mentor, somebody that you can just talk to and you can confide in, because sometimes, like she said, like the process isn't just, I think I might have an issue. Okay, cool, I'm going to call somebody. Because in reality, especially if you're a minority, you can't just walk somewhere and go get a therapist. It don't work like that. it's a really long process. So if you have somebody who you know can help you and assist you through that process, it's also resources like the Black Mental Health Alliance, Healing Youth Alliance. I can drop those in the chat. Anybody's interested, it is a bunch of different resources you can go to that are currently trying to break down the stigmas of mental health, because people always think, oh, mental health, oh, something crazy, something wrong with you. Like, it's not even like that. And sometimes it's crazy because you may not even realize that you have an issue until it's an issue, and it's crazy because, like, even me, like, being 100% honest, like, I'm cool, like, I'm a cool person, but I really think I might have like a slight anger issue, like just a small one. And of course I don't want to just say that. Like, I want to be like, oh yeah, I got anger issues, when it's deeper than that, and so just having an idea of what may be going on and being able to address it, because you don't want it to be, oh, you have anger issues, you don't address it, then you punch a hole in the wall. Now you have to reevaluate, what's going on. So trying to stop it before it becomes a bigger issue than it already is.
Yep, I do agree. I don't want to sound like a broken record, but like it is important for you to find somebody that you really, really, really trust. Because like sometimes it's like it's almost like you want to be open about what you're going through, but if you talk to somebody, if you don't, or you don't really find comfort in, it's gonna be like, I'm not gonna tell you everything because I don't trust you. So it's important for you to find somebody like a really, I wouldn't even really say a friend, because sometimes we talk to somebody that's like really close to, they may go understand that you're going through it. You tell them about stuff, and then they're not really feeling you or give you that good information that you really need. So you probably need to find like somebody like an adult or like a counselor, somebody from your school that you can really confide in. Like I had um, a um, a counselor at the school. He was actually he was a therapist. He was a really cool guy. Like I could tell because his vibe was natural. Like we come to him, he was so pure. You gotta find somebody that you could really, really like. You feel that comfortability. You can really come to him. Okay, I like how you are. You're not like a very like a stuck up therapist. You're not like a disrespectful. You're a very calm person. I could talk to you because you seem like a person I can trust. You know what I'm saying? Find somebody that's older than you who have a little wisdom. You can go to your grandmother. You can go to your aunt. Somebody that you know that you really can like really feel comfortable in, because you want to share everything. You don't want to get bits and pieces, and you don't feel the healing that you need to be. You know what I'm saying? So I had to find somebody I really could find strong comfort in. Because if I told somebody that I halfway trusted, or I hang with you here on Saturday, but then we not cool on Monday, then I would have told you only a little bit piece of my issue. But I need to tell somebody everything. I need to lay it all out. Because if you lay it all out, you feel the freedom that you need to feel. So find somebody you really can find comfort in and trust in. And eventually, hopefully, you can find a therapist. But, it takes a while. Because it took me a while to find a really, really, really good therapist. Because first of all, you want a therapist like this, your same complexion. You don't want somebody to look different from you, because it's like, I can't trust you. You know what I'm saying? You can't really, it's not that I can't trust you. You can't relate. I need somebody who's going to relate with me. I need somebody who's going to really, go ahead.
Someone who's going to get it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that makes perfect sense. But on this one, I would have to beg to differ.
Okay.
Only because I would be a hypocrite if I didn't.
Mm-hmm.
When I was in 8th grade, I had a school psychologist named Miss Wheeler, and this lady saved my life.
Mm-hmm.
And she was white,
Yeah.
and she was from Patterson Park, and I'm from Drew Hill, like two totally different backgrounds, but we connected on. What did we connect on? We connected on, I guess you could say I was experiencing depression,
Yeah.
and she had experienced depression as well. So it's not really as much as we should have to work harder to find therapists. Therapists just need to be trained differently, because sometimes it's not always about oh, I experienced the same thing as you. Sometimes this is about empathy. Like, for example, I was on the phone early with somebody, and they said that their sister had a miscarriage. I never experienced a miscarriage before, but I can still provide comfort and say, I know how it feels to lose something. I
Yeah.
know how it feels to be disappointed greatly. So just kind of trying to find some type of area where you relate. Because once you can find some way where you can relate, which is usually pain, unfortunately, but if
Yeah.
you can find some type of area, because mind you, I took miscarriage and broke it all the way down, so it doesn't have to be exactly, oh, oh, I experienced slavery, so I know how you feel. No, well, I may have experienced, a parent who wasn't always there for me as well, so just trying to find some way that we can relate, because I went through a billion therapists when I was younger, like a bajillion, really. And I was really, I felt ashamed because I was feeling like, why I can't find anybody who I relate with.
Yeah.
And I just had to kind of dig deep in myself and see things from kind of like a different perspective, I guess.
Yeah, I do want to interject though. I really agree, but I know where I'm from, Southeast DC. I talk to other brothers. They, say it's hard for them to really confide in someone that looks different from them. It's because they haven't experienced the Section 8 trauma. You know what I'm saying? So like, I understand what you're saying. Most definitely got to find somebody's sympathy, but it's kind of hard, you know what I'm saying, to really come to somebody, okay, I'm gonna give you my whole situation, and you just saying, okay, something different, So like, it's almost hard, because I've had friends all the time that tells me, oh, I don't know. It's hard for me to find someone that looks like me to help me. But I do agree. It's no way possible, because I literally had a white therapist when I first started. But as it went, I know some therapists can attack certain issues. So I needed a different specialist for different things. So like my regular therapist couldn't talk about stuff about maybe sexual trauma. You know what I'm saying? It all depends. So like it's like a balance almost for me personally. But I know what I experienced. But I know we pressed for time, so I'm going to give it to you, Sierra.
So both of you are highlighting that everybody's different. Everybody has
exactly.
different,
yeah,
and that the Black community is not a monolith either, right? Like there's different experiences in the Black community, and people are going to seek out different things. And as somebody over the course of however many years I've been doing this, I feel like people just really come with different needs.
Yeah.
And it's like I feel like what I heard Elder say is that relationship between you and that person has to feel real, has to feel authentic, and you have to feel that your therapist really cares.
Most definitely.
Cares about what you're going through. And I heard that from you as well. Is it Davon? Am I saying your name correctly?
Davon, yeah.
Yeah. And you kind of know when someone's really authentic and they really care, and when they don't. And when you're just somebody who, is taking up their 45 minutes, right? So, and that doesn't feel good. That doesn't feel good. And how could you possibly feel healing if you don't feel that that person truly cares about you?
Yeah.
Well, no, I think that was just thank you, Elder, for opening up that conversation, because the main thing that came in my head was the word comfortability. And that's all it is. Really just with and who you're able to open up with. I'll say for me, I also had an experience with a white therapist 3 weeks ago, and she had me crying on the phone. So I will say that I definitely do think that comfortability is a factor, and that authenticity that a therapist does have. But to Davon's point, I will also say that certain life experiences and certain experiences, just as a female, there's certain things a male or someone, or just in my experience, that they just won't have that experience. So I think as we dig deeper to the nitty gritty, then it kind of gets into, okay, maybe yes, background does matter, history does matter, but I do think mainly though the largest thing is just comfortability, and just what you guys are all saying, just who you're comfortable with and going with, who you're flowing with. And once again, it's hard to find that person sometimes. Exactly. It takes a long time, which leads me to my last question before we get into a special performance. Basically, for people, if we can't get there, we can't get to the therapist. Say I don't have a friend, I have nobody, it's alone, I'm by myself. Maybe if you guys could just share some things that you do to cope. I know, Elder, you mentioned you have anger, or you may be struggling with your anger. I personally have anxiety, and that's been a really big thing for me. And a lot of it has been me having to figure it out on my own, or it has been me having to, little things to stay sane or to work through my nervousness on my own. So if you guys could just share a couple of things that you do.
So for me, we ain't addressed the anger yet. Next season we gonna talk about that. But right, like for as far as like what I have been able to handle, like as far as depression, when I was in middle school, like I used to be so sad, like I used to be so depressed, and like one way that I really kind of helped myself cope with really be music. It really helped me clear my mind and help me find a different way to put how I was feeling. And it's crazy because a lot of times people would say, Elder, you're supposed to drop a song, you gotta drop a song. when people don't realize like music is how I heal. So it's a process, you know. So it's kind of like I'm writing a diary and I'm choosing to share it, you know. So just trying to find an outlet that you can really pour your emotions into instead of, you know, pouring it into other areas of your life.
For me, like I said, I have a therapist that helped me through my issues. Also, what else? I have a good community I can depend on when it comes to letting out things that I'm feeling. You know what I'm saying? I have to have something like a pastor. If you have a pastor, if you have anything, also your faith. If you believe in anything, depend on it. You know, that keeps your hope there. Keep your hope for better. Even if you don't believe in it, just have a strong hope. Hope that you're going to make it out. You know, believe that you're going to make it out. And then eventually, as you grow, it's a mindset. You continue to train your mind to think better thoughts, whatever you're going through. I struggle with major depression. What keeps me out is thinking positive, changing my whole mindset to something that I know I can make a change, or I know I can do something better. Not keep myself in a place where I'm just, you know, sad all day. You know, I remember I had like cause I have like a little, like a time when I'm like depressed. It's not like all the time, but it comes like maybe it lasts for a week, 4 days. But this particular time lasts for 2 days. I was like, look at God, you know, it didn't last as long as it used to. You know what I'm saying? That's progress. You have to be happy about the progress that you do have. If you're growing, you're just making that change. You're working hard to make yourself feel better, do better, and seek the help. Seek the help. Find somebody. Just find somebody. It don't have to be a therapist. It could be a friend.
Yeah.
It could be a teacher. It could be your, you know, it could be anybody. So
those are all great. Definitely finding the person, definitely expressing yourself. I see music once again. I know, Elder, you mentioned music. Music can help you so much. Words are so powerful. I know for me, music, they do whole studies on it. Music dictates how you feel. That's why they don't like violent music, you know, before kids go to school. So definitely finding, you know, artists that you can relate to. Writing, I see, can help you release thoughts and pain. For me, yoga, I've been getting into yoga and like emotional releasing through stretching. It's really been great for me personally. Um, so yeah, also volunteering, yep, getting back, connecting with people. These are all things that we can definitely do, you know, to help ourselves and to, you know, help yourselves through difficult times, and, you know, when things get rough and when things get hard, in case you can't find someone.
Yeah, I just wanted to make a quick comment that people are kind of like, we think, I guess in therapy, we think about people like balloons, right? And we're full of all these emotions and all these things that happen to us because there's disappointments, breakups, all sorts of things that happen to people. And so people fill up with stuff. And so all the things that you mentioned, from journaling, music, exercise, all these different ways and outlets that we have, just kind of like release some tension from that balloon, right? We got to let some of that air out, or we are going to pop. We are going to put our fist through a wall. We're going, you know, we're human like that. And so I just think that if going to see a therapist is too scary, or you don't have access, you can't afford it, or something like that, being able to have other outlets where you're getting the feelings that are inside of you out in a way that is not going to harm yourself or other people is probably the most important. Right? Like, because that's what happens to, especially for people of color. I feel like BIPOC folks, like, we carry so much quietly, and we show up at our jobs, we do our, you know, we do everything that we're, you know, is expected of us, and yet like a lot of stuff going on internally that doesn't get addressed, and that's when that balloon can either pop, or, you know, things happen. So I would say any way that you're tending to that part of yourself, the emotional part that's hurting, is a good thing.
Definitely. Thank you so much, Calix. Once again, thank you, Davon and Elder, for your time tonight. I will say that if anyone in the live has felt moved or inspired to take that first step and get therapy and go beyond an online resource, we do have two 20% off coupons via well. So you can comment in the chat, or you can DM the Urban Health Media Project after this is over. If you would like to take advantage of that, we do only have two. And then also I would like to mention next week we'll be back with another Therapy Thursday with sports psychologist Dr. Joe Carr, who has worked with professionals like Allen Iverson, LeBron James, Carmelo Anthony, a lot of basketball players that I know, so that's cool. So please do come next week. Thank you guys so much for joining. And before we close out, we did mention at the beginning that young Elder is an entertainer, an artist. who has done songs and work, surrounding mental health. So you have something prepared for us,
Yeah, I got a quick little poem that I put together for y'all. It's not a song because it's a cappella, but it's about mental health, so I hope y'all like it. Um, Depression's a beast, you been ready to quit. Just keep on fighting, one day you gon' win. Pay getting heavy, you wanna give in. Just keep on fighting, I've been where you been. Put down the razor and put down the pills. I know that it's hard, yeah, I know how it feels. Looking around like this pain can't be real. But I've been where you been, now I'm ready to build. So yeah, guys, just don't focus on what's going on right now and try to focus on what's going on in the future or what you want to do in the future, because trust me, pain happens, but we can't stay there. We gotta keep moving. And pain is just like, it's like sand, it's not like quicksand, you're not gonna fall in. It's just sand, just brush it off. We gonna be okay. Everybody go through it. So yeah, that's it.
Yeah, thank you for that. Yep. I
Thank
love
you.
it
That was
so much.
beautiful. Yeah.
Thank you all so much. We'll see you guys next week.
All right.